Hi, and welcome to this very focused Dux-Soup webinar for pro users. I'm Jo Henderson, a member of the marketing team at Dux-Soup, and I'm here with our head of sales, Scott Wright. Hi, Scott. If you're
Hey
new to
there.
Hey there. If you're new to Dux-Soup or new to our live events, then we're here every 2 weeks to guide you through tips and tricks to help you get the most out of LinkedIn and using the automation features available with Dux-Soup. Today, we'll be talking through the benefits available to you when you upgrade your plan from Pro to Cloud. And if you have any questions as we run through the content, just add them into the questions box and we'll answer them during the session or at the end. I'll also be sharing any links that are referred to in the chat box, so keep an eye on that as well. Scott, if you want to move the slides onto the one with the cap, then I can remind everyone that if you enjoyed the session and find it useful today, please do leave us a review. There's nothing that we like better than a referral from our wonderful users. So if you add today's date on the review on G2, then we'll be in touch to make sure you can get one of these lovely caps and make its way to you. At the end of today's session, we'll also be sharing a very limited time offer, so stick around to find out more about that and how it can help your prospecting activities. And with that, I'm going to hand straight over to Scott.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jo. That was a great introduction. So very excited for today to talk about the new features that you can be able to obtain by being on cloud instead of with Turbo. As a quick agenda, what I'll be covering here is what is Dux-Soup Cloud, what are the campaigns, multi-drip sequence campaigns versus single-step automation, how to use Enroll instead of Visit and Connect, acceptance and inbox monitoring, which is something the cloud can do. And then seeing that Dux-Soup is always on 24/7 in the cloud version, and then also access to LinkedIn metrics and reporting, as well as the integrations in Open API. And I will demo the cloud version at the end and then hold for questions. So here we go. Oh, went a little quick there. Sorry about that. So what is Dux-Soup Cloud? Dux-Soup Cloud is an always-on version of Dux-Soup that's on 24/7 that allows you to go ahead and create multi-step drip campaigns that you can tie together. And then you can go ahead and enroll people into those campaigns and not have to worry about having your Chrome browser up and running. We clone your LinkedIn session ID and we're able to host it on our servers. And then from there, you can go ahead and run Dux-Soup like you normally would, and everything will be moving while not being able to take up much resources of your computer or having an active Chrome browser or computer window. There's also built-in dashboard and reporting as well, so you can see the impact of the campaigns, because everybody on this call, most likely the pro users, obviously, you're able to utilize Dux-Soup to send out connection requests or first degrees, but when it comes to reporting to say like, oh, is this one working well or not, it's kind of difficult to be able to track it through the Dux-Soup app. In fact, I don't believe there's even a way to do so for the most part. And I'll be going over that in a second. And then it's also a complete end-to-end campaign deployment tool. So you will be able to connect things like a follow-up to your first degrees, followed by an in-mail step if you're on Recruiter, or maybe you want an in-mail, then a connection request and a follow-up, something like that. So what Dux-Soup Cloud is an always-on version of Dux-Soup that also gives you access to integrations, dashboards, and the ability to create multi-step drip campaigns. So speaking of campaigns, for the most part, Dux-Soup Pro is what we like to call single-step automation, where you go ahead and build your list, right? And when you build your list, you type in your connection message and you hit visit and connect, and the little window pops up there in the bottom right-hand corner. Well, in the Dux-Soup Cloud version, you're able to create multi-step drip campaigns like I was mentioning before. A connection request, then a follow-up message from there, and Dux-Soup will monitor your inboxes to see when it comes in. You can have as many campaigns running as you want and simultaneously, and you can create as many campaigns as you want and enroll as many people as you want into those campaigns. You can have any combination of up to 12 steps of whether it be first degree message, in-mails, follow, endorse, or visit profile, which will make a little bit more sense here when we go into the demo. And when you build the campaigns, a reply will stop the campaign that you go ahead and use to enroll, unless they go ahead and come to the end of the campaign and finish it on out. But a metaphor or analogy, if you will, that I like to use here is kind of like, think like an email nurture sequence, where if you have 3 or 4 emails in a chain and the person replies to the second email, then email 3 and 4 don't go out. Same type of idea here. Once you've created your campaigns and saved it, there's a new feature. The Visit and Connect feature will be missing from the cloud version, but that will be replaced now with what is called an enrolling button. And so what you would do here is, well, you'd still build your list the exact same you would in Pro. So you build it in regular LinkedIn, you build it inside of Sales Navigator, you build it inside of Recruiter, whatever it may be. It's just when it comes to you going ahead and launching, you go ahead and hit enroll, and what Dux-Soup will do is very quickly start to enroll everybody on the page. Now, it's not sending out the message at that exact moment, it's queuing itself up to take that message at a later point in time. And so depending on what your throttle is, it will adjust to that. This will make a little bit of sense here in just a moment. You can still enroll also from LinkedIn URLs if you have an external list. And then all the actions when you do hit enroll, everything is going to be happening in the cloud. So you won't see any pop-ups. You won't need to have after the enrolling process, you won't need to have your computer open to see the little window happening in the bottom right-hand corner. It still will adhere to your daily throttle limits, right? So the number of connection messages you have, the number of visits, the number of first degree messages, however you sort of have your throttle adjusted there, it will still abide by that, and it will also abide by the planner. Furthermore, there's built-in deduplication or blacklisting steps where you cannot enroll the same person into the same campaign. And there's ways to enroll one person into multiple different campaigns if that's what you're looking for, but we'll show that a little bit further in the demo here. One of the new things, newer things, I should say, with the cloud is when you take a campaign that has a connection request and a follow-up message as a hypothetical. Well, what Dux-Soup will do is when that connection message is sent out and the prospect goes ahead and hits accept, then what Dux-Soup is doing is it's monitoring your acceptance inbox, if you will, and it's going through that about every 20 to 60 minutes. And it will say, oh, I see that this person accepted from this campaign that you created. I will now go schedule the follow-up message to go out to that person. And so it monitors then not only your net new connections, but also the inboxes in your regular LinkedIn and Sales Navigator for anybody that replies that's associated with any of these campaigns as well. Because a reply, when Dux-Soup detects it, will stop the campaign as designed. So these two things are the areas that it's able to monitor for your inboxes or any of the net new connections there. There are ways to override this because some people may reply back to your connection message, hey, great to be connected with you as well, Scott, right? Then there are tools that we have available that you can go ahead and utilize to bypass that because maybe you still want them to get the rest of the messaging. And like I had mentioned before, Dux-Soup is now on 24/7. This was a huge request from a lot of our users over the years, that having to have an active Chrome browser running is time consuming, tedious. It could sometimes eat up the resources for your computer. And just knowing that you have to have it running and it's not totally set and forget in the way that you're able to just walk away because if your computer goes to sleep or if your computer restarts or whatnot. Well, with the Dux-Soup Cloud version, you only just need to enroll your bulk of lists or enroll individually. And it's a very similar process that you would do when visiting connecting, except you'd hit that enroll button. And everything then is going to be queued up for Dux-Soup to take throughout the day. And everything is being hosted on our servers, which is connected to your account and launching it on your behalf. So there's no browser required, no computer required to be on and active. Obviously, I guess you need one to start it up, right? And then Dux-Soup will still abide by your throttle and planner, and you will get an email alert if you're ever disconnected. So when you're setting up your cloud instance for the first time, you will need to hit a button that says Start Cloud Session. And once that makes the connections, then you're connected to us, and you don't need to do anything else from there. If for whatever reason we do get disconnected and we do not have access anymore, you will get an email to your inbox that says, hey, Scott, we've been disconnected from your cloud. Can you please go back in and hit start and run it back again? But it's a very rare case that would happen. But if it does, we have parameters and alerts built in to make sure that you're aware of it. For the metrics and the reporting, this was also a big request from a lot of our users, which was not only to have the 24/7 and the drip campaigns, but then on top of that is to have reportings and be able to have a platform where you can A/B test campaigns. This campaign versus that campaign, and being able to measure the results and the performance and tweak them, and then also monitor and manage campaign progression. So as the campaign is progressing through, you can see at these steps it's maybe doing and performing poorly, so you maybe want to adjust it. You can then also view the people at each one of the stages and manage them accordingly. So if you want to move them into a different campaign, or you want to reply to them from Dux-Soup, there's multiple other things, which I'll show you here in a minute. Also, getting data out of the metrics and reporting. We have a way for you to quickly copy and paste campaign metrics, just straight copy to your clipboard, then go paste it into a Google spreadsheet. No need to visit a ton of profiles and then necessarily download that in a manual sense, and then re-upload it, scrub it. You can do a lot of that through copy and paste just through for the campaign metrics at least. Then there's another way now to using external lists. So for all of our pro users that are on this call are most likely familiar with the revisit feature, I would imagine. And the revisit feature, it is a little finicky in terms of how you have to have the headers sort of columns and headers set up and whatnot. With the Dux-Soup Cloud version, you can still go ahead and upload an external list in a CSV, but the headers don't matter as much. And there's a dedicated button inside of the Dux Dash, which I'll show you here in just a moment. So it's a much faster and quicker way to get Dux-Soup running for you and be automated. Then with the cloud version, you also get access to our open API, and we have integrations with these partners. Like we have a Zapier step, which can really allow you to create so many different things, but we also have a native integration with HubSpot, Pipedrive, SharpSpring, and a few others, Woodpecker, for instance. And what I've seen some people even do is with like a HubSpot, for instance, you can create, and if you don't have a HubSpot, you can create a free HubSpot account, and you can have up to 1 million records in there. And so some people will utilize that as almost a sidecar database to some degree, and then have Dux-Soup dump all of that information in there as well. But that said, a lot of this was talking, right? Let's actually see it in action. So if I'm going to pull this up here, just expanding my window here a little bit. Right. So a lot of the beginning processes of how to use Dux-Soup Cloud is going to be somewhat familiar and straightforward for the most part, and very similar to what you guys have seen. So you need to start out with having a list, whether that list is an external list, an external CSV, a sales navigator list or search like we're doing here, recruiter project, if you will, or a search on regular LinkedIn as well, right? In some way, shape, or form. Then we'll use this search that I've built right now, which is targeting recruiters who have just changed jobs in the last 90 days. And one of the first things, actually, let me just refresh this really quickly. And so one of the first things that you will notice is when you're in the cloud version, you will have a side window that pops up here that says Dux-Soup Tricks. What this basically is a way for you to enroll. Now there's 3 different ways to enroll and get the campaign started. 2 of them are manual, 1 of them is at scale, right? So the first way is by going into each profile manually, which is not ideal for most people and their use cases, but it does work for some people because as they're just going about their day, they come across a profile that they're like, ooh, I really want this person to be enrolled. And you can see that the Dux-Soup Tricks pops up on the side here. I can then select a campaign and go ahead and hit enroll there if I'd like. Otherwise, the other method that you can utilize is still manual to a degree, but a little bit more streamlined. Let me refresh the page again, which we'll see here in just a moment. Another moment. One more, we popping up here any second. Right, well, the Dux-Soup tricks will pop up here in just a quick second. I'm not sure why it's not popping up at this moment. And it will show the Dux-Soup tips and tricks, which you can go through page by page on these and be able to manually enroll people off the side there. Let's give it another refresh and see if that rejiggers it back into place. There we go. And so here's the second way that you're able to do it. So this way it would be good if you're going through a list, right? And you're like, ooh, I don't want Mavi or Bjorn. I want Katarina though, and you can select her and go ahead and hit enroll, whatever it is. And you can go ahead and go from here and go page by page to if that's something you want to do it by. Otherwise though, the main reason why most of us are on this call and utilize Dux-Soup is for the bulk automation portion. So what you're able to do then is you can click on the duck up here, and then you can see I still have the scanning feature available, so you can still scan all the profiles and pull them off to do offline scrubbing and then re-upload it. Or I can go ahead and hit enroll here, and I can select whatever campaign I want. And I go ahead and hit OK. But before I do hit OK, I'm going to just now quickly hop over to the campaign section and what you can do to actually build these. So once you have your list built, you want to have your campaign then created as well. You could also create your campaign first before you create your list. It's up to you. Obviously, you just need both in order for it to run. This is the Dux Dash, and here is the drip campaign section. And in here, you can see I have a ton of different campaigns, some of which are turned on with different names, and they are currently running right now. And you can have as many of them on as you'd like, and Dux-Soup will cycle through them simultaneously. And so I have went ahead and created this campaign here, which is called Recruiter 3. And once you give it a name, you can select a box that says to reject profiles from other campaigns, so you can ensure that when you go to enroll it on a list or whatnot, if that person's been previously enrolled, Dux-Soup will skip them if you want to. If you turn this off, then Dux-Soup won't. From here, you can also tell it which inbox you want to go to. So all of us are probably somewhat familiar with the fact that Sales Navigator has a separate inbox from regular LinkedIn, right? Well, with this feature, what you're able to do is select which inbox you want everything to go. So you could use regular LinkedIn here as a hypothetical, and which is what we're going to do, and still leverage the Sales Navigator inbox because I like to use like all my messages coming into my personal LinkedIn inbox, even though it gets messy, because I don't always remember to check Sales Nav. But everybody's different. Some people do like it to have in Sales Nav. It's totally up to you, wherever you want those conversations to sort of have. Right. So once you have done this part, it's now time to create the campaign. So you can go ahead and pre-write out your connection message and your request. And this should look familiar down here in terms of the placeholders. These are coming back. So you can utilize these placeholders. So I wrote one, hey, first name, congrats on the new role, so on and so forth. Then what I have done is set up a follow-up message to go out 2 hours after connecting. So after the person accepts the connection request, 2 hours after that, this message will be sent to them. You can adjust this to whatever it is you want. You can adjust it to 3 days, 5 days, 2 days, and whatever is your heart's content, you can go ahead and adjust it. But if the connection request goes out and the prospect hits accept, and then they reply to you, hey, Scott, great to be connected with you as well, for instance, then the follow-up message will not go out in that case. It will pause. If he doesn't respond and this message does go out, then subsequently follow-up message 2 won't go out and 3 go out. So basically wherever the person replies, the remaining steps will not go out, just like an email sequence works. So if they reply to the connection request, then 1, 2, and 3 won't go out. If they reply to follow-up 2, then message 3 won't go out, and so on and so forth. With these campaigns, though, you can tie together any combination of these items, right? Follow a profile, send an in-mail, visit that person, endorse, or send a direct first-degree message. You do not need to have a campaign, a connection request either. Maybe in your campaign, right? In here, we're targeting our second and third degree. We're targeting second and third, but maybe if you were targeting your first degrees, what you could do is just simply remove the connection request, and then this will be set up as a first degree campaign that will go ahead and be sent out to all of your first degree networks if that's what you have open on the page there in that area. But let's go back to our other version. I guess also mentioning one other portion of here. You can also do the in-mail steps as well, which is what a lot of people like to leverage if they're in Recruiter especially, which this also abides by, but also in Sales Navigator. And there is a way, maybe Joe or the team can put it in the chat, to send out unlimited or as many in-mails as you'd like, and I put that in asterisks or questions. There's ways to go about that too, but you can connect this, for instance, up to maybe a connection message, then with a few follow-ups in between, maybe a visit step here as well. So here's a common campaign that we've seen before, right? In-mail being sent, then a visit step, hey, Scott Wright visited your profile, then a connection request a day later, and then after they've accepted, then a follow-up message can be queued up to go out. All of these steps can be done. Any combination of these can be put together and leveraged. And it gets down to a little bit of an art, and being able to do it correctly is going to take some trial and error and seeing what's going to be working for you and what's not. We have some best practices and whatnot that we can share at the end of the call too. But let's go back to our regular campaign that we had set up here. Oops. So from here, the one that I'll be utilizing now is, you can see that there's a connection request, and then there's a series of 3 follow-up messages after the connection request. So we'll go ahead and save it. It's already saved. Now we're coming back to our search, which we went ahead and created here. And I'm going to do exclude viewed and exclude message. And then once you have your search ready to go on Sales Nav, all you have to do is, you could do the manual way, individually, one by one. You could do it by the page on the side, or you can do the way that Dux-Soup is known, by clicking on the extension and now hitting the enroll button. Once you hit the enroll button here, it's going to bring up a window. It's going to ask you, hey, which campaign would you like to use? And so you select the campaign that you'd like, and then from here you can go ahead and enroll as many people as you'd like. And this is the only portion of Dux-Soup that you need to have let it finish in this sort of case. Once this part is finished, you can close the tab and go about your day. So as you can see, as we've launched this, it is enrolling the first 3 people, and then it ignored the next few people because they were previously enrolled into a different campaign or the same campaign, which is exactly how we have, as you can see here, we have this turned on, the reject profiles from other campaigns. So it's working as it should, right? So it's skipping over all those people, and it will now go page by page until it hits 100. Now, with these enrolling portions here, all it's doing at this moment is essentially queuing up the action to happen at a later date. It's not sending it out immediately, every single one of those. And depending on what your throttle is, most, let's say it's 25 connection requests a day, for instance, you enroll 100 people and your planner is set to be Monday through Friday, and you would do it on a Monday, then it would take 4 days, right? If you have 20, then it would take 5 days. If you can do 50 connection requests a day, then it'll take you 2 days, right? So being able to keep track of how many people you're enrolling is going to be crucial in this area. And at first, I recommend doing around 100 to test out. That should be enough to last you for roughly about a week. Then the following week, assuming you like the campaign, everything's going well, try enrolling 200 and going that route, right? And setting it up to be a little bit larger and bigger. What we don't always recommend, you definitely can do, but is enrolling thousands at a time. What we've seen is when you do 1,000 or 2,000 or so on, is it tends to cause some issues in terms of the queue being built up too much. So doing it in chunks of 500 to 600 is okay, and then keeping tabs on it for basically like a month process, and maybe check it every month, check it every week, check it every other week. It's also good if you ever want to change any of the campaigns. But as you can see here, it's already still going down to the bottom page, and it's going to continue on until it hits the 100 that I'd given it, right? So where can we see all these, right? Well, in the Dux Dash, we have an area called the queued activity. on the left-hand side here now. And so here, what you can do is you can basically see all of the actions that Dux-Soup has queued up for it to take. And in this case, we'll go to the Recruiter 3 aspects here. Let's do rows per page, will be 50. And as I'm looking at the date here, and this is today. So here, as you can see, it's queuing up Benjamin, Felipe, Nadia, Ben, Kelsey, and these are all from today. So these are all queued up actions. Dux-Soup hasn't taken them yet. It will though throughout the day, and it will go to hit until it hits its throttle of either 25 or whatever the connection messages is, or first degree if you're doing first degree. And you can change those settings still, which I'll go over here in just a minute. Now, to see the performance and the metrics of that, we now can hop over to the funnel flow. So this is where you're going to be able to monitor the KPIs and analytics and have the dashboard and reporting for all of your campaigns that you currently have active. So up here at the top, you'll have some options. One says all campaigns, the other one says select date range. For the all campaigns section, you can click here and just select your specific campaign. And you can see in the last 7 days, but let's go all time. Let's look at this entire campaign's metrics here, since I've started this campaign. And what you can see here is that I've enrolled 626 people, but only 512 have been invited of the 626. Why is that? Well, because we're queuing up enrolls to happen right now as we speak. Currently, right here on this page is growing. So this 626 number is constantly going up, and then the 512 will also continuously go up as well as the connection requests are being sent out in that case. Then as Dux-Soup is monitoring your inbox for net new connections as well, when it detects one that's associated with this Recruiter 3 campaign or whatever the campaign is, it will then add it to the accepted portion here. Then if the person doesn't reply and a follow-up message does execute out to the person, then it will tally that up here. So you can see that there's been 180 follow-ups to different people here as well. And then nextly is the responses. And so when a response is detected by way of the Dux-Soup message bridge running and checking your sales nav inbox or checking your regular inbox, and it detects that a new response came in associated with this campaign, it will document that here as well. Then we have a qualified section, which I'll talk about here in just a moment. Now, these stats right here, you can really view this however it is that you want. Maybe you want to look at all of your stats of all time, right? And so you can go ahead and set this up so it shows you all of the metrics of all time associated with your campaigns. And we'll give this a second. It should populate here. Might be a lot of, there we go. So you can see 41% acceptance rate, not too bad over all these. And the responded is 336. And so these can be adjusted depending on however you want to look at the data, right? Maybe you just want to look in the last 7 days, or you want to look in the last 24 hours, however you want to go about it. You can adjust it as accordingly here. Right. On the right-hand side over here, you can see that there's an enroll from file button. This is the revisit feature that you guys or that most people are going to be familiar with, where you can upload an external CSV. And if I just click a random one here, it detected that there was 344 profiles that are ready to enroll. And I can actually just select whatever the campaign is and then hit enroll, and it'll just power right through it. You do not need to keep, you just need to wait for the little loading bar to happen. And then all the profiles will be queued up for that specific campaign. Also, you can copy all of the campaign metrics data here by hitting the copy all or copying by way of a section, right? So if I hit copy all here, I can actually just paste this now into a Google Sheet like this. And so these are all the campaign metrics that we pulled off for that specific date and campaign that we did here. You can just hit copy all and it copies it to your clipboard and you can paste it from there. Right, so that's a little bit on the data with the funnel flow, creating dashboards. Furthermore, on the funnel flow is also the ability for you to manage campaigns and manage people in the campaigns and taking different actions with each one of them. So down here at the bottom, you're going to see it says 504. Actually, let's change this a little bit. Let's do our campaign that's in question here, and let's do all time. Right. So if I scroll down, you can see it says 626 prospects enrolled, as you can see in this section here. And then from here, if I was to click on maybe accepted, it would show me, and it's 259, it shows me the 259 people that have accepted. And so what you're able to do is if you go to the responded portion here, it shows me that there's 126 that have responded. And now if I scroll down, I can see all the people that have replied to me, right? Now, obviously this is reflected inside of your regular LinkedIn as well, but that can get messy sometimes. So we've built this interface here for you to go ahead and take different Dux-Soup related actions in the cloud, without really having to lift much of a finger or worry that the bot is going to be running or not. So all you'd have to do is click on a person's profile, and you can see that there's quite a few different options up here at the top. Continue will basically ignore the response. So, hello, good morning, this response here. Maybe I want him to get the next message in the campaign, or I want to continue him in the campaign. I can just hit continue, and Dux-Soup will ignore that response and then queue up the next message to go out for that person. So there is a manual override, as I was mentioning before. Qualify in, qualify out. So what qualify in and qualify out are is if I was to qualify this person right now, it will put them into this section here that's called qualified, right? I like to also think of this area as a like save or unsave a lead, but the idea here is that you've had a good conversation with somebody. You want to keep tabs on them and have a quick access to quickly, get to them in certain ways or keep tabs on them. So you can hit qualify in. This will move this person now over to here, where I can now manage the most important people to my campaign or to my overall campaign and keep tabs on them, rather than having to go through your regular LinkedIn inbox, if you will, right? And try to go through all the messages through here and try to manage it. You can now just sort of keep tabs on the people you want to through here, right? So furthermore, in the responses, you can also message right here from the platform. You can also alternatively just open up their profile and send out a message as well. And then also switch campaigns. So let's say this person replied with this. Maybe the way that they replied, I have a whole follow-up sequence I want to enroll them into. Or maybe the person says, I'm not interested right now, please reach out to me later or something, right? Then what I could do is maybe have a nurture, like a 90-day nurture sequence, right? 90 or 100-day nurture sequence that I build inside of the drip campaigns. And then I can go ahead and hit switch and switch them to whatever the campaign is. And then maybe it's the nurture campaign and go ahead and enroll them that way and do it one by one if I'd like. Unenroll is basically wiping them off of and deleting them from the campaign here. Then you can go to the next person and go to the next person and so on and so forth and take actions as you need right here in the dashboard. One way that I see people utilizing this is they'll set this to all campaigns because they're not necessarily sure just quite yet which campaigns are working the best maybe. So they'll set this to all campaigns and then they'll select the date range and maybe do like the last 24 hours. And so you can see in the last 24 hours across all of my campaigns, I've gotten 3 responses. So what this tells me is that these are the 3 people I need to pay attention to today, right? These are the ones I need to send out follow-up messages immediately to, or take action, or whatever it is, right? And so building that into your workflow where you're checking this on a daily basis is definitely important and can be extremely helpful rather than having to sift through the messiness of the campaigns and whatnot in here as well. Or sorry, of the LinkedIn inbox on that area. Right, so that's a little bit on creating the drip campaigns and going ahead and enrolling them here, and then going ahead and creating it and monitoring your metrics in the funnel flow, and then pulling some of the data out of Dux-Soup from the campaigns here. The scanning feature, you can still scan all the people that you'd like and download the data and export it and then import it back into Dux-Soup using enroll from file. Then we also have the CRM connections tab here. And so with the CRM connections, we natively integrate with Pipedrive, HubSpot, and SharpSpring, right? With the HubSpot integration and with all of these though, you're able to sort of set it up and determine the type of logic that you want going in. Do you want it to be create and update contacts from all connected profiles, like manual or not? Do you want it to just be connected and updated contacts from just tagged profiles? So people that have specific tags in these areas, or is like connected plus tags, right? So once you do this and set this area up on any one of these platforms inside of HubSpot, you will be able to see the records of people replying and what was sent. Oh, nothing was sent on this person here. Let's see if we could find one here. Whoops, there we go. Yeah, this works perfect. So what you're able to see in here is the HubSpot and the Pipedrive and these other ones will capture this information and will capture the message and response either coming in or the message going out to the prospect. It will synchronize that all on HubSpot here. And on the right-hand corner, you can also take actions out of HubSpot as well, and with some of our other tools. And with that note of CRM connections, if you don't use one of these, we do have an open API with the Dux-Soup Cloud version. And so with the Dux-Soup Cloud version, you can leverage different webhooks and create different triggers and automations on Zapier to do different things that would sync up with whatever type of tool you have. And we have a native Zapier step that you can leverage inside of there. And so we'll share some of the content around this if that's something that's interesting in that area. Everything in here looks the same also as your Pro version, except there's some features that have been stripped down for simplicity as well. Right, and so that said, coming back to our presentation here, that is a little bit of the demo of being able to create campaigns, multi-step drip campaigns, and enroll people either manually or in bulk through a list, a Sales Navigator or regular LinkedIn, being able to monitor the enrolls and connection requests and manage people in the funnel. And then from there, being able to have everything be running 24/7 in the cloud as well. So no pop-ups popping up, no small little windows that are popping in the bottom right-hand corner. Dux-Soup is just on and constantly running for you in this area in regards. And so with that said, I will also talk about this. For all of we do run regular webinars, like Joe was mentioning, and we do have quite a few different blogs and case studies, and we offer support and tech calls, unlimited support calls for all of our users. But Joe, maybe you wanted to speak a little bit more on this.
Yeah, I will do. Obviously, if you need any help with anything that we've gone through today, not only will you receive a copy of the video so you can revisit any of the content. Obviously, as we've said here, that we do offer support calls. They're free for 15 minutes, and we also offer booster sessions and technical sessions. However, if you scroll on to the next screen, I did mention an upgrade offer for our Pro users. So here it is. If you upgrade before the end of June, not only will you receive a limited edition Cloud Cap, but you'll also be added to our Pro upgrade channel, which gives you direct access to Giles Scott and myself for 3 months. So we'll be sharing tips on the channel, and it's also a great way to be able to get free one-to-one help and guidance from us, and also a great forum for you to ask and have open discussions with fellow Pro upgraders. So that's the offer that we kind of alluded to at the beginning, and that will be available to anyone who's been on this webinar up until the end of June. So that is that. If we just go on very quickly, I'll brief you on the next webinar and then we'll open up for questions. So our next webinar is on the 25th of June, when Giles Scott and myself will be talking about how to generate more leads on LinkedIn. Among many things that we'll be covering, we'll also be looking at how to leverage existing connections to generate new leads. We'll look at the importance of objective setting for your campaigns and how to use actions and sequences to achieve your campaign objectives. That is up on the website at the moment. I will share the link with you in a second if you would like to book. Let's pop that in the chat now. And And then you can get that in your diary straight away. And then I will come on to the questions. So Scott, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So Jeffrey has asked, if cloud is working for me automatically 24/7, must I stay out of my LinkedIn account so as not to show strange double activity within LinkedIn that might get my account blocked? What would your guidance be on that?
My guidance would be that, and Giles, feel free to jump in this area. But yeah, you can still go ahead and leverage LinkedIn for the most part, but just being cognizant, knowing that Dux-Soup is running. So, remember that it's going to be sending out a lot of the connection requests, the allotted connection requests that is acceptable for your profile. And so being aware and that Dux-Soup is running like that in the background, but you should still be able to do everything on that area. Giles, would you like to jump in on that?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, so I'll be hiding here in the background. Great job, Scott, by the way. One thing to remember is you've still got use of the planner. So even with the cloud version, you can still make use of the planner, and you can still determine exactly when you're trying to get out the sunshine here because it's glaring in my eyes. So you still make use of the planner and make sure that you're able to control exactly when the robot's active. There is a much greater level of sort of, should we say, we believe sort of not compassion, but an understanding that people run LinkedIn on multiple devices in synchronicity. You'll be logged on your phone, you'll be logged on your tablet, on your computer, whatever. So we do see fewer instances of people facing a problem with dual activity. But if you want to be absolutely sure, just make use of the planner and have Dux-Soup doing your automation at times that you are not manually active on LinkedIn.
Perfect, thank you. We've had a question in here. Can I move prospects from one campaign to the other?
Yes, you can. So what you'd be able to do in this area here, the funnel flow, when you are looking at, let's just have this one as a hypothetical, you can click on any one of these columns here. So maybe it's like, oh, the people who have accepted, right? I want to then move them over to a different campaign, or most of the time it's the people who have replied, right? So the people who have replied, you want to switch them over to maybe a different first degree campaign that you've created. Then you would click on the 3 here for the responded, scroll down, and you can actually hit the switch button per person and go ahead and switch whatever campaign that you'd like to have it in. Alternatively, you could also, if there's a lot of people here, just copy the data like I was showing from before. So this copies it to your clipboard. You can paste that into a Google Sheet or Excel or whatever it is, and then scrub it as accordingly, and then use the enroll from file to then and put them into a different campaign. And yeah, you can have one person in multiple different campaigns, but you can't have one person in the same campaign more than once. Yes.
Thank you very much. Another question here. If I'm running outreach with Dux-Soup, what is seen as a good acceptance rate?
I say 20% is a baseline. That like if you're not hitting 20%, that is in my personal opinion, a good serious call to look at your connection request and look at your approach and your audience in those areas. Giles, what would you say? Would you say it's higher or the same? Or?
Absolutely, exactly the same. Yeah, if you're not achieving at least, it was at least 15%, then you need to look at things. Ideally, 20% or higher is where you should be. That should be perfectly achievable. And of course, every industry is slightly different. Some markets are tougher to crack than others. Some people are more active on LinkedIn naturally in some industries than others. But yeah, 20% is a really good baseline to work from. If you're not getting 20%, well, first of all, you won't be able to increase your activity because LinkedIn won't think LinkedIn will consider that you are, targeting the wrong people. You won't be getting a, great acceptance rate. So therefore that won't increase your reputation on the LinkedIn platform. All of these things become self-fulfilling. The more you do and the more success you have, the more you can then do in the long term, and the more credibility you have. So yeah, 20%
exactly.
is a really good starting point.
And that, just tacking onto that, that's one of the crucial benefits of having the funnel flow here, right? Is because what you're able to do is then see what that acceptance rate is. Because what you could also do in a lot of these cases is you could actually just have maybe even a connection message here, and just have a one-step campaign, right? And being able to monitor this if you really want to. But yeah, in here, being able to check this, and if you're not getting on average, maybe a week or two in, right, you're not getting on average at least a 20% every 100 you send out, 20 are accepting on average, then yeah, it's time to maybe turn around and go look at, is it my connection request? Is it the audience? Is it one of those areas, and so on?
It's usually one of three things. It's either your profile, it's either or it's the people you're targeting, or it's the content or lack of content in your campaign and the way you're engaging with people. So yeah, do think about all of those factors.
Yeah, and we've got lots of good tips online about how to write good connection messages and update your LinkedIn profile. So use those buzzwords on our blog pages to find the good articles on that. Let's have a look what else we've had come in. What mechanism does Dux-Soup use to make sure that we don't go over LinkedIn's limits?
So there's a couple of different mechanisms that exist. The main one though is what for most people who are, if you guys are all using Turbo, inside of there, you're probably familiar with the throttling tab and the planner tab, right? So you can adjust these to make sure that it's only, operating during your hours, and then also make sure that the connection requests out of the box with all of our tools right now, when you download it, I think it's set to 25 per day, which is conservative. Yeah. And then profile visits is, detect, leave it up to us. But yeah, my recommendation in this area is going back to, if you're maintaining the 20% acceptance rate on average, then what I recommend doing is gradually increasing it. So next week, if you're still maintaining 20%, and go up to 30 connections per day. Week after that, you're still doing well, maybe go up to 35, 40, 45, 50. And then usually I stop around the 60 to 70s in that areas. But depending on your profile, depending on the number of connections, depending on how people are treating you, your SSI score, so many different variables that sort of are thrown into the mix, it really differs. And so being able to set it up to where you increase gradually, and if LinkedIn does slap you on the hand, you will get a message that says, hey, you've hit your weekly invitation limit for the week. Please try again next week. And what Dux-Soup will do automatically in this case is it will go to sleep for 3 days in this area. And so it won't take any actions for 3 days, just to ensure for precautions of these areas. Giles, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, that 3 days is sort of like a cooling off period. Because what happens is actually if people start accepting your invites, then that kind of unlocks more, sort of, for want of a better word, but better expression, virtual credits to send more connections. Yeah, from my experience working with many people over the last few years, there seems to be a sweet spot for most people of somewhere between 40 and 60 invites per day. If you've got a paid LinkedIn account, you're getting a good acceptance rate. It is different for everybody, and the only way to find out what it is to try it and test it out over time. Yeah, ideally you want to bob along just below that warning level. That's the optimal place to be, and for most people, somewhere between 40 and 60, which is a couple of hundred invites a week, which is actually a really good number, especially if you're getting 20, 30, 40% acceptance rate. That's a lot of new connections every week, and with good targeting, there'll be good quality connections as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Posted in the chat as well. We've got 2 really good articles around LinkedIn limits and LinkedIn safety, and I've just sent the links out to the chat for those 2 as well. So they're really good ones to refer to.
Wonderful.
I think I've got 1 or 2 more. You might have covered this actually while I was reading some of the other questions. I like to download the locally collected data that Pro gathers for me. How is this handled with the cloud version?
So how it's handled right now, there's a couple of different ways you can download it, right? So the scanning functionality is still there currently. So what you'd be able to do is, as you go to your search, right, or whatever it may be, you can still go ahead and use the scanning functionality and then download the data, and it'll download as a CSV, right? So that hasn't changed, and that's on the Pro version as well, right? You can then also pull the campaign metrics and data right out of the Dux dash here, right? So you can pull that out and be able to do with it as you please. Then on top of that, you could also hook up to our via our APIs, or maybe like with HubSpot and whatnot, and have the data go straight into HubSpot, which then you can export out of there. And again, you can create a HubSpot account and set up the native integration with Dux-Soup, and HubSpot is free to store up to 1 million contacts, and Dux-Soup can leverage that. And so you can create almost like a sidecar database to store and hold everything if that's what you want. And you can still just include like a visit step if you wanted to visit a ton of profiles, and then have that be, you know, dropped into the HubSpot instance in there. Giles, what would you add to that in this case?
Yeah, it is one of those things that, yeah, I know that there are many users, pro users who I've spoken to, for example, who they visit lots of profiles and then they want to download all of the data around it. And what Scott's alluded to there is a couple of really useful things, especially around the HubSpot side of things. What I have seen recently is people who really want to gather all of that data, making use of, for example, Zapier or Make integration, and then just having all of that data dumped into something as simple and straightforward as a Google Sheet. Because you can do that dynamically through the API, and then you can gather all of the fields. Of course, our Pipedrive and HubSpot integrations are generic, they are standard, but if you want more data than is collected there, then I would recommend using something like Zapier or Make to populate a Google Sheet. In fact, we've actually got a blog post, which I think you were involved in updating recently, Scott, where you can actually use the API without even using Make or Zapier. So you can populate loads of data fields straight into Google Sheets without even having to disappear down a Zapier rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's, I mean, with that area, I've always been thinking of the growth hacking sort of mindset, if you will. And, you know, Zapier can cost money, obviously. So thinking of what is going to be the best way to get the data out. But to Giles's point, yeah, I mean, even if you were to Google search Dux-Soup and Google Sheets, because some people have not heard of Zapier, you can see that here, there's a Zapier step right here that you can go ahead and create. You can see that we have a trigger already set up for you in these cases. So you can hook this up to ChatGPT. You could hook this up to the Google Sheet, which then hooks up to something else or whatever it is, being able to leverage that API for sure.
Yeah. And I've got one final question here. How many campaigns can you run simultaneously? And can I really turn my laptop off whilst they're running?
Unlimited and yes. Yes, so you can create as many campaigns as you'd like. So if we use myself as an example here, and we go to my
the most I've seen is 60. The most I've seen a user have is 67. I don't know how close you are to that yet, Scott.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure how many are in here. Right. I wish that it doesn't show how many are on, but yeah, you can see that a lot of these are off. Some of them are on. Right. And just because it's on, though, doesn't necessarily mean that it could just be people that are left over. Maybe the connection request was sent and it's sitting in the person's inbox and they haven't hit accept yet, right? So, but when they do, then the follow-up message will still be scheduled to go out to that person. But if you wanted to, you could have that, like this campaign that I launched here, I could then go build a different one with a different campaign name, right? And enroll a different list right now as we speak, and maybe enroll another 100 people. So I just enrolled 200 people today, right? In that case, right, is how that would look. Dux-Soup will abide by the throttle. And if your throttle is set to 25 per day for the connection request, then it's going to take, what is that, 8 days? Yeah, it'll take 8 days to go through 200 in that case, right? 4 days for 100. And so, yeah, but you can have multiple running, and Dux-Soup will cycle through each of the active campaigns that you have running as well.
Fabulous. That was the last of our questions. So I think all it leaves me to remind everyone is in 2 weeks' time, we'll be back here doing how to generate more leads on LinkedIn. And a reminder that if you would like to upgrade, that we have that offer for you. So provided you upgrade by the end of June, then you'll be part of the little Slack channel that Giles, Scott and I will have going on. So you'll get lots of one-to-one support and guidance on how to upgrade and get your cloud momentum building with your campaigns. So yeah, so thanks Scott, thanks Giles for popping on and joining us, and thanks to all of the audience who have stuck with us throughout. I hope you've found the webinar useful, and for those of you who are still on with us, then the recording will be available later, so you can have a quick look back and remind yourself why you want to buy it.
Awesome.
And with that, I think we will sign off. Bye for me.
Thanks everybody.
Cheers, bye-bye.